Cairo, 1992. It's the end of Ramadan, the holy month is drawing to a close, and you can almost feel the city holding its breath for Eid al-Fitr.
That's the feast that ends the fasting, but right now, a week before the holiday, there's just this one feeling everywhere you go.
Frantic, urgent pressure.
And all of that pressure seems to just crystallize in one specific place, the Ataba commercial district.
If you've ever been to Ataba, you know it's already, well, famous for its congestion.
Right. But now you have to imagine that normal chaos magnified, say, tenfold by last-minute holiday shopping. It stops being a market, it becomes something else.
It's a survival mission, a slow-moving, intensely physical one.
That's a good way to put it.
So try to picture it. The air is thick, not just with heat, but with this noise. Thousands of voices, car horns, merchants shouting. The crowd is so dense you're literally being pushed and pulled along.
Total sensory overload. And that's the world where we find 20-year-old Shahinaz. She's from Block al-Dakur, and she's there with her mom and younger sisters doing what basically every other family is doing.
Getting the new Eid clothes.
Exactly, just finishing up the shopping.
So they make their way to the main bus stop. They're looking for bus 17 to get home. But when that bus finally pulls up, the entire crowd around them just it becomes this single violent wave surging for the doors.
It's pure, brutal competition just to get a spot.
It is. And that moment, when the bus doors hiss open, that's when the normal chaos tips over into being genuinely dangerous.
It forces these terrible choices on people.
Shahinaz's mother, she's trying to be protective, right? So she puts all her energy into just shoving the younger kids through the crush of the front door. Shahinaz is right behind her.
The mother makes it on.
She does. But just as Shahinaz tries to step up, she feels it, a hand. Harassment. It's immediate, it's terrifying, and she realizes she's trapped in the absolute tightest part of the crowd, utterly exposed.
And her first instinct is just, retreat, get out. She gives up on the front door, thinking, maybe the back door is safer, less crowded.
It's a calculated risk, a split-second decision to get away from the immediate threat.
But that short distance, just a few meters, turned out to be catastrophic.
She gets to the rear steps of the bus. She probably thinks she's safe for a second, and then a hand shoots out, grabs her.
And it's not a helping hand?
Not at all. It yanks her backward violently, throwing her flat onto the pavement in the middle of Ataba Square.
And this is where it just gets horrifying. She wasn't alone for a second. The source material is very clear on this. She was immediately surrounded.
Not by one person.
No, by 4 young men. And they began to assault her. Right there, in broad daylight, in one of the most public places in the entire city.
The audacity of it, the sheer brazenness. 4 men together in front of hundreds of people. This one act instantly elevated the whole incident. It became known as the Al-Ataba girl case.
And it quickly spiraled into, probably the biggest public opinion crisis to hit Egypt in the entire 1990s. This wasn't just a crime.
It was an act of social defiance.
So let's talk about that immediate aftermath, because it was just pure panic and noise.
Shahinaz's mother. She's on the bus. She hears the screams. And she has to descend frantically back into that same terrifying crowd, fighting against the flow, to find her daughter on the ground.
I can't even imagine the terror and the rage she must have felt. She starts screaming too, but in Ataba Square, her cries are just swallowed.
They're nothing. The noise is too loud. The traffic, no one notices. And the most critical part, the crowd itself, those hundreds of potential witnesses, they were indifferent.
And that indifference, that human shield they created, is what a nearby police officer, Salah Helmi, recognized instantly.
He sees what's happening, and he knows he can't physically wade into a crowd that big. It's impossible.
He needed something to shock the system, a deterrent that could break that human formation all at once. Trying to do it manually would have just started a riot.
Or worse, all 4 attackers would have just slipped away in the confusion. So he makes a drastic call.
He pulls his service weapon.
He does. Officer Helmi pulls his firearm and fires 2 shots straight into the air.
Not at anyone, but it was the sound.
Exactly. That sharp crack of gunfire cutting through the drone of the square, it was the only thing that could have shattered the crowd's focus.
And the effect was immediate chaos. The people around Shahinaz just scattered.
And as they did, 2 of the attackers used that chaos, that scattering human shield, to make a run for it. They just vanished into the streets.
But here's the detail that always stays with me. Even on the ground, in that state of shock, Shahinaz maintained her grip on the other 2.
She did not let go.
She held on.
Officer Helmi tried to chase the 2 who ran, but it was useless. The crowd was still too dense. He came back, secured the 2 men she was holding, and took them and Shahinaz to the police station.
And the second that report was filed, the national reckoning began.
And this wasn't just some entry on a police blotter. This incident immediately blew up into a massive public opinion crisis.
Yeah.
State security agencies were, frankly, just shocked.
They saw a coordinated public assault in the country's most visible square as, well, unprecedented.
So the investigation had to move at a national pace. Shahinaz was sent immediately to forensic medicine Ataba Square.
And the report that came back confirmed it. A partial rupture of the hymen caused by a hand.
That one forensic detail, especially in the context of 1990s Egypt, meant the case was just explosive. It wasn't just criminal. It carried this immense social weight.
Oh, absolutely. The government knew it had a crisis. The national newspapers were tracking the case daily, front-page updates. Security agencies even put up a large financial reward.
A bounty.
Pretty much, yeah. A bounty for any information on the two fugitives who had just melted back into the city.
But the crime itself wasn't the only shocking part, was it?
Not at all. What really seemed to dismay the state agencies was the behavior of the bystanders. I mean, 4 young men assault a woman in a packed public square.
And nobody does anything.
No one intervened. It was a massive blow to the public conscience, to the perceived social contract. When a crowd protects the aggressor instead of the victim, that signals a really deep problem.
And that problem, that fault line, ran right through Shahinaz's life.
Completely.
Because of the intense public scrutiny, the stigma, she felt she had no choice. She quit her job and just confined herself to her home. She became a national symbol and, at the same time, a prisoner of shame.
She was being punished for being the victim.
Mm-hmm.
And the state, I think, realizing the damage this was causing, they tried to do some damage control.
They issued a publication ban on case details, right?
Yeah.
To stop her photos from being spread around.
Exactly, an attempt to restore some privacy, some dignity. But, the story was already out there.
So the very society that failed to protect her had to then mobilize its leaders to rescue her from the shame that followed.
It's a profound irony.
This movement to support her became almost as big a story as the crime itself. Key figures, famous artists, they stepped forward. They refused to let her be isolated.
And they very consciously tried to change the public narrative. This was crucial. Respected actresses like Amina Risk and Nadia Lutfi, they did something extraordinary. They visited her at home.
And they did an interview that was published in the official press.
Their message was crystal clear. Shahinaz is a courageous heroine who was wronged. She is not a source of shame.
And that social solidarity, it actually worked.
It did. It gave her the strength she needed. The source material says she eventually went back to her job, started living a normal life again. It was a victory for civic support, even if the criminal case was. Well, another story.
Yes. While her social rehabilitation was happening, the legal investigation was just hitting wall after wall. This is where it gets incredibly messy.
The judicial process just slammed into a complete lack of reliable evidence. It started with the identification process itself.
The investigators ran into a really puzzling problem when questioning Shahinaz.
Yeah, what was that?
She could easily and very clearly identify the 2 arrested men, both named Gamal, who had held her legs during the assault.
Okay, that makes sense. She held on to them.
But, and this is the contradiction the investigators couldn't get past, she struggled to clearly identify or even describe the other 2 men, the ones who held her hands.
Even though they would have been right in front of her face.
Exactly. When you think about the psychology of shock, it's just bewildering. Why the clarity on the men further away and the vagueness on the ones right there?
The defense would, of course, leverage that heavily.
And that leads to the second, just massive obstacle, the tech deficit of 1992. Today, a place like Ataba Square would be blanketed in CCTV cameras.
You'd have a clear video record of everything. In 1992, nothing. 0 photographic or video evidence of the crime, of the perpetrators, of their escape. Nothing.
So the whole case rested on human testimony. And if the technology failed, the witnesses failed even harder.
That's putting it mildly. Every single eyewitness, and we're talking about hundreds of people, failed to provide a clear, distinct, usable description of the assailants.
This reinforces that initial theme, doesn't it? The societal indifference.
Either they didn't want to see or they just couldn't remember.
So after all the media frenzy, the national crisis, the prosecution is left with only 2 men to put on trial. The 2 Shahinaz held on to. The 2 fugitives vanished forever.
And now the defense team for these 2 men, the 2 Gamals, they go on the offensive. With no external evidence, the trial just boils down to who you believe, the victim or the 2 accused.
Let's start with Gamal 1. He had a complication. He claimed he had a physical disability, a limp.
Right. His story was that he was just standing on the bus steps, fell because of the crowd surge, and was just lying next to Shahinaz on the ground.
An innocent bystander who literally fell into the situation.
Exactly. And his wife publicly supported that story, his unwavering claim of innocence, through the whole trial.
That's a real problem for the prosecution. How do you prove he wasn't just a victim of the crowd himself?
You can't, not without evidence.
And Gamal, too, offered a similar story. He claimed he was just leaning against a wall nearby and was suddenly grabbed and beaten by the officer and the crowd in the confusion after the gunshots.
So he's also claiming to be a victim of circumstance.
The case was completely stalled. You had this overwhelming public demand for justice clashing with a complete lack of conclusive evidence.
And the court knew 4 men were involved, but they only had 2 men in the dock. The whole system was stuck in this vacuum.
A full year passes. A year of testimonies, public pressure, reviewing every single report.
And then the verdict. Despite that intense public opinion demanding a guilty finding, the court issued its final judgment.
Acquittal for both men.
An acquittal.
Right.
After a crime that dominated the national consciousness for an entire year, the outcome was seismic.
It must have been.
But the court stood firm. They stated very clearly that the evidence against the defendants was definitively insufficient. It was this powerful demonstration of judicial independence.
The system refused to be swayed by public pressure. It upheld the rule of law over the clamor of the public.
Precisely. And in a final solemn note, the court explicitly ordered the security agencies to continue their efforts to find and arrest the 4 actual perpetrators.
But we know how this story ends.
Yes. To this day, the 4 individuals responsible for the assault on Shahinaz have never been apprehended, never brought to justice. What's so fascinating here is the question it leaves us with.
Which is?
Well, it raises this important question. When you have this overwhelming public sentiment demanding swift justice, but the established objective evidence is non-existent, a vacuum created by failed technology and a silent citizenry, how is the justice system supposed to navigate that divide?
So what does this all mean for you, the listener? It means that sometimes the most profound impact of a crime isn't the verdict that's delivered, but the one that never comes. It's a reminder that justice is built on irrefutable evidence. And when that evidence literally vanishes into a crowd of indifferent people, the truth can remain perpetually unresolved. And society itself is forced to live with the chilling reality of unpunished brutality.